Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Ladies and gentlemen, live from Bandar Seri Begawan, welcome to the 5th Impact Dialogue Resilience in Times of Uncertainties, organized by the Young Professionals Network Brunei. Please feel free to refer back to your kit. It should be on the chat box. That's https://bit.ly 5 impact participants for today's program. Otherwise, it is now 7:50. I am very excited to have everyone soon to start today's program. But as like any Young Professionals Network event, we will start with energizers. I am pleased to introduce Obama Leaders Asia Pacific Fellow and Women of the Future 2021 nominee, Ms. Angie Ang, to lead us for our energizer this evening. The session will take 7 minutes. Angie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Fatli. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dialogue. I hope you guys are feeling well. And today, tonight, wherever you're dialing in from, is this topic speaks a lot to a lot of us here today, and I know that a lot of you are, excited and looking forward to the speakers. But before we move further, let's just have a little energizer just to loosen us up and get us in the right frame of mind and for tonight's dialogue. So really quickly, this energizer requires a little brain work, and all you have to do is just type in the chat box and feel free to let your imagination flow and go with it. This energizer is called old and new. Some of you may know it as now and then. However, if you don't, I will give you a little introduction. It's how it goes about is I would give you a little well-known idiom or saying, and I know that we know many of them. And what I want you to do is come up with a new way of saying it, right? And this ties back to our topic of resilience in times of uncertainty, whereby with the usual old sayings that we know, they may not exactly sound like it's applicable to our current new normal. However, as we adapt, we change, the principles and learnings still remain the same. So a fun one would be, for example, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. And so nowadays, I mean, during the time then, it sounds easy to remember, and that's why most idioms and saying rhyme, and it's just to get people into the idea of understanding that keeping fruits or keeping yourself healthy, that means you don't have to go see a doctor. Something simple as that. So, but if you think about it today, maybe that wouldn't that doesn't how to say it doesn't exactly resonate anymore. Maybe nowadays it will make more sense if you say get vaccinated and be safe, something like that. If it I know that doesn't rhyme, but for example, it's as simple as that. It's just to come up with something that is more current, that is something that's more in trend, something that you can relate to. So I'll give you guys a little bit of time to think about what I just said. And the first saying is action speaks louder than words. So what do you think in the new normal, what would the new saying be? I'd like to remind you guys that there's no right or wrong in answering this. It really is just how you perceive it and how do you apply it to your current day-to-day situation. Thank you, Fatli, for the first example. Staying at home speaks louder than words. Okay, a little bit there, because yes, we all have to stay at home. What else would it come to your mind if you think about action speaks louder than words? Action speaks louder. Mask up, yeah. Following SOP speaks louder than reposting on social media, yeah. Don't push it. Get vaccinated. Comprehension speaks louder than action. Yeah. Get swapped if feeling paranoid. Yes, definitely. No mask, no opinion. Ah, that's a good one. Doing nothing is better than doing anything. In other contexts, that may sound not as applicable, but in our current situation now, yes, doing nothing is better than doing anything, in a sense. Yeah. No panic shopping. Yeah, definitely. Keep it coming. So for those that are still thinking how to answer this, if you think about look at the answers that's already sort of been that's been entered here, you realize that a lot of it really is actionable, actionable action. Does that even make sense? Actionable words. We're saying that in this current situation that a lot of actions that just not doing them, it's that's more good than just talking about it. Everyone is equal. Everyone's definitely keep calm, stay at home. Ah, that's a good twist to the famous 2011 saying, and it's good to use it again. That's right. Keep calm, stay at home. That's a good one. 10 years later, and we're bringing it back. What else? I might actually use that. Keep calm, stay at home. How else will we think that actions, action speaks louder than words? Yes, but don't punch walls. Metaphorically and literally, please not punch walls around you. Let me give you guys a second idiom now, a second O saying, and how would you reflect it now? So the second saying is, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Panic buying, increased pricing. Yes. Is this wrong answers on it? Not really. It could be, depending on how you perceive things. So, I believe that there really is no such thing as a wrong answer per se, because at the end of the day, it's how you interpret things and how you view things. So, when everyone is doing it, don't. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. When everyone is doing it, don't. Monkey see, monkey do. Yes. Yes, definitely. What else? What would be a newer interpretation of when in Rome, do as the Romans do?
Angie, just to know, we have 1 more minute left.
Thank you. Show me, don't tell me. Yes. When in pandemic, wear your mask. Yes. Mask up, get vax. Yeah. I like that. Show me, don't tell me. Yeah. A lot of times it's easier to follow an action rather than just listening and expecting to carrying it out. Definitely. Mask up, get jabbed. When you are vaccinated, encourage others. Yeah. Yes. When in Brunei, don't do as the people who break SOP do. Yes. So, as we've both idioms shared, they are again more on the action side of things, actionable things where there's cause and effects, right? Do self-report daily. If you feel unwell, go to the clinic, sanitize yourself, take care of your hygiene. Watch your recorded lecture. Yeah, so the purpose of this is you realize that, the first one, when I said action speaks louder than word, we're in partial lockdown now. We're gonna, Terana di rumah, stay at home, which is an action. But we have also become more vocal on social media platforms, to sort of like get the impact across, to get people to understand, and linking it back to when in Rome, do as the Romans do, and very well put here by that, because the one that I saw that, like, show me, don't tell me, by Puan Zainab. Thank you for the example, as well as earlier on by is Laila as well, keep calm and stay at home. That's exactly it, isn't it? Like, there are many things that we want to do, and there are many things that we feel that maybe is quite a challenge right now, that we're only limited to this sprint that is in front of us. But the thing is that, being resilient and being to adapt in our current situation to do, for the better good for everyone that's around us is, is the most is the right thing to do, to keep each other safe and, to flatten the curve. So thank you everyone for participating and, and thinking and, expanding a little bit on how we're gonna do this. I hope you guys find quotes here that you like, because I definitely found some that I like. When I'll keep listening, I'll definitely be using them, and it's a very interesting way of looking at how things are. I hope that this energizer got you guys thinking, and and keep your hearts and mind open to have a fruitful dialogue as we go on. And I will pass the floor back to Fadli. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Angie, for those reflections. And it is definitely and indeed a really good brain teaser on how we can define resilience today, which is why we're all here today. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin wa bihi nasta'in ala umuriddin ya waddin assalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera, good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, esteemed speakers, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 5th edition of Impact Dialogue organized by Young Professionals Network Brunei Darussalam. Live from Kampung Sungai Basak, Bandar Seri Begawan, my name is Fadli and I will be your host and moderator for today. We thank you for your time and contributions, and I am personally looking forward what we're going to do in the next hour and a half. Indeed, these are challenging times today in the middle of a second wave pandemic here in Brunei Darussalam, but it should not stop us from growing better as a professional community. So with that, and this dialogue between you and I on today's theme on resilience in times of uncertainties. Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to present a featured video in a bit. So this is in tribute to our fellow frontliners, courtesy of Sukarelawan Belia COVID-19, following the recital of the Doa shortly. As with norms and customs in Brunei Darussalam, we would like to invite award-winning National Youth Award 2021 recipient Haji Abdul Matin Bulkini bin Haji Ahmad, Young Professionals Network Brunei, and Tambang.co founder. Matin, the floor is yours.
استغفر الله العظيم استغفر الله العظيم استغفر الله العظيم إلى حضرة النبي المصطفى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وإلى أصحاب الكرام الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين 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 آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم إنا نستحفظك ونستودعك أدياننا وإيماننا وأنفسنا وأهلنا وأولادنا وذريتنا والمسلمين وأموالنا وكل شيء أعطيتنا. اللهم اجعلنا وإياهم في كنفك وأمانك وجوارك وعياذك من كل شيطان مريد وجبار عنيد وذي عين وذي بع ومن شر كل ذي شر إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم جملنا بالصحة والسلامة وققنا بالتقوى والاستقامة وعذنا من موجبات الندامة في الحال والمآل إنك مجيب الدعوات. اللهم إنا نسألك سلامة في الدين وعافية في الجسد وزيادة في العلم وبركة في الرزق وتوبة قبل الموت ورحمة عند الموت ومغفرة بعد الموت. اللهم هون علينا في سكرة الموت والنجاة من النار. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا ووالدينا ومشايخنا ووالديهم وإخواننا وأخواتنا ولمن أحسينا إلينا والمؤمنين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اختم لنا بحسن الخاتمة ولا تختم علينا بسوء الخاتمة. اللهم يا الله يا علي يا عظيم أنت جلال هذا المجلس مجلس YPN Impact Dialogue Resilience in Time of Uncertainties. اللهم بارك لنا في وبارك لنا في بلادنا وبارك لنا في أكمالنا وكل ما أنت علينا يا أكرم الأكرمين يا أرحم الراحمين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Thank you very much. Amin ya Rabbal Alamin. Thank you to Haji Abdul Matin for the doa Surah Al-Fatihah and the doa Selamat, as well as the featured video earlier in tribute to our fellow frontliners, courtesy of Sukarelawan Belia COVID-19. It is a wonderful evening and I hope everyone's doing well. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, in setting the scene for today's program, it is my pleasure to invite award-winning High Commendation recipient of the Women of the Future Award 2020, Dayang Aspadiah Muhammad Sah, as co-founder of Young Professionals Network Brunei, for her opening remarks. Aspa, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Fadli. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us from wherever you may be. We here at YPN would like to welcome all of our speakers, invited guests, committee members, and participants to our 5th edition of Impact Dialogue with the topic Resilience in Times of Uncertainties. So we hope everyone is doing well and is keeping safe. Alhamdulillah, YPN is working very hard during these trying times to just stay connected with our network of young professionals who are not only from Brunei, but around the world. We were recently an association partner at the Asian Forum on Enterprise for Society, AFES 2021. And it was just concluded yesterday, actually, where it featured our own Bruneian professionals like Datuk Timothy Ong of Asia Inforum, Amy Ramlee of Tyne Solutions, US-based Hirotian, and our fellow YPN co-founder Fatin Arifin. I think she's here somewhere. I saw her name earlier. So if you are new to YPN, we are actually a network set up as a platform to nurture personal and professional growth of young professionals here in Brunei Darussalam through our key initiatives, such as networking, dialogue, mentorship, advocacy, and development programs, to name a few. So just a brief throwback to our first virtual event just a year ago in June for the YPN Youth Roundtable meeting, which has laid out events following 3 successful YPN Youth Town Halls. These include 2 sessions with the ministers and a member of Legislative Council. And these events would not have been possible without the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sports. And prior to the second wave, Alhamdulillah, we celebrated the achievements of young people, which includes one of our very own and award-winning Martin Bolkini of Tambang. So together at the same momentous occasion, we also launched our website, ypnbrunei.com, and this was witnessed, Alhamdulillah, by His Majesty the Sultan of Brunei. Okay, so back to the 5th Impact Dialogue this evening. So this is actually our first virtual event together with a mentorship weekend series since the second wave pandemic. And in this edition, we will follow closely from the Brunei Youth Forum, where there is a need to delve deeper into, addressing stigmas, filling in gaps in the support ecosystem, and defining resilience more, specifically as we are tested in this partial lockdown. So we find that we believe it is also important that we recognize the plight of teachers, health workers, frontliners, and fellow professionals in these difficult times. Hence, we have curated 5 speakers especially to reflect this. So Impact Dialogues are curated in a way to create a safe space for an open, honest, and constructive discussion. So it is my expectation that today's outcome would convene a breakthrough dialogue, not just by speakers, but also everyone here, each and every one of you, to participate with questions and thoughts about resilient attitudes, and ultimately inspire actions that contribute to our development. So this is what Impact Dialogue is all about. So without further ado, let's begin. Thank you everyone once again, and I pass the floor back to you, Fadli.
Thank you very much. That was Dayang Aspadiah Muhammad Sah, co-founder of YPN Brunei. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to take this opportunity to welcome a family photo with all our esteemed speakers and participants. So if I can ask everyone, ladies and gentlemen, to switch on your video cameras to pose for this occasion. So this will just take less than a minute, but if I can just ask everyone once again to switch on their cameras for a group photo. I'm just opening up the gallery view. Oh, lovely to see all the faces. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. I hope everyone's camera ready. I hope I forewarned you for this. We're just gonna do this right in a bit. I'm just making sure that we have most people opening up their cameras soon. We'll just start in a few seconds. Lovely faces, familiar faces. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Hope you guys have had a good evening so far. Okay. Without further ado, I'm just gonna say we're just going to do one photo because there are 3 pages on the gallery view. So I'll allow Nadia to take a screen grab for this occasion. So I'm gonna count in 3 seconds. Big smiles on the camera and stay still. So don't move. I will count now. 3, 2, 1. Please pause for a moment as the photographer is capturing your screens. Yeah, just awkwardly smiling, just waiting until everyone has gotten in. Okay, all right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope Nadia has captured everyone. but not to worry. This dialogue is also about you. And in any case, I am very much excited to finally start the dialogue. So in recognizing today's theme, yeah. So recognizing the role of frontliners and volunteers, public and private sector in their adaptability and explore conversations on mental health resilience, the support systems in place and in workplaces, home, peer and social support to others, and challenging stigma and the new normal. So I've thought a lot about coordinating this session and designing it following our Youth Forum Brunei just early on mid this year. Today's dive-in is to really define resilience a bit better. Apalagi tah masa time macam mana ya, during the second wave where we are all faced with our personal and professional challenges on the theme of resilience in times of uncertainties. So in times of uncertainties, I have decided to convene this impact dialogue. It's no coincidence that today's green palette, the green color, is also in paying recognition to the Mental Health Day. So that's celebrated 10th October 2021. Internationally. And I also want to give a special shout out to Adli, who's designed all the beautiful graphics that we've had today, the poster and social media, and who's worked with me in the very beginning for this program. Thank you so much, Adli. So I will take this chance to introduce our speakers one by one. So as you guys know, and as Aspa shared, the format for Impact Dialogue is not so much for speakers to just speak, but also to listen to you, your experiences, challenges, reactions, and questions. So we'll have a very quick next 15 minutes just for our speakers to share their thoughts on the theme. And then right after that, we'll utilize the chat box and hopefully hear from you live from mic and camera on your comments, thoughts as well on this topic. So first and foremost, going by the order of the program, it's my deepest pleasure to introduce Puan Haja Zainab. So Puan Haja Zainab and I I'm proud to say as colleagues and hopefully as a fellow youth advocate and friend, I think we've had the pleasure of interacting sometime earlier this year. I had the pleasure of witnessing her running the workshop for Global Shapers, which has a similar topic that we've had today, and also for me to moderate and interview her for an episode for Suara Kita Ni Studios, also very similar topics, and much more so earlier that year was to share with young people on what they should do on being resilient. And today we are faced with that challenge to practice that, not just as a young person, a young professional, but also as a HR professional herself. And I was just speaking to her earlier about the strides that the Brunei Shell Petroleum is doing to check on their colleagues and mental well-being. But I also want to know and be a bit more curious on her thoughts on what she thinks about today's topic. And you know, from a call 3 weeks ago, here we are today. When I just sign up, how are you?
Right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. A very good evening, everyone. Praying and seeking for the mercy and protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of us in Brunei under this unprecedented time, and also speedy recovery for all those who are impacted by the pandemic at this point in time. Without further ado, let me just give a bit of my 5 cents worth of what I thought about the topic that we have today. I wouldn't go straight diving into resilience, mental health in the times of uncertainties. I would like to pick up on the topic of uncertainties. Why do I want to do that? I just want to set the scene because this is what's percolating in my mind. And I'm talking about today, big businesses understands that what is the kind of environment we are operating in. And that environment we're talking about is VUCA. So when I talk about VUCA, I talk about this earlier in the year in Malaysia, which Virtual Connect as well. And people find it a very interesting topic. So when we talk about VUCA, it's actually about the volatility, the uncertainty, the complexity, and the ambiguity that we're going to operate under the current situation. It's always been there, but with the pandemic, you know, other countries are moving into endemic, Brunei still in the pandemic. We having to actually look into this, really be on top of it. So what do you mean about volatility? So we're talking about changes to the COVID-19. Due to this COVID-19, is taking place every day, and it really unpredictable, very dramatic to some, and it's very, very fast, you know. And we talk about uncertainty. We are talking about nobody globally in Brunei and elsewhere can predict this indefinite period of time that we're going to go and face this situation. So it's really something that You just need to take a day at a time, and just be very, very compliant to whatever SOP that MOH and the government is actually putting on us in order for us to ride the tide and actually flatten the curve, as we call it. Complexity. Well, I guess everybody knows what complexity is all about. So we talk about complexity. The pandemic in itself is affecting all aspects of life. So including healthcare, the businesses around us, the economy and the social life, very complex ways, and it calls for different ways of handling. Last but not least, in the environment that impacts us is ambiguity. So there is no best practices that anyone can actually fall back on. So organizations don't really have it. And for organizations that learned from the first wave last year, can actually keep on building on it. But how do you manage the challenges caused by the pandemic, which is so fluid? Hence, the term that people really focus in today in big organizations, small organizations on a daily basis is about mental health. So when we talk about mental health, the well-being of the people. So in Brunei Shell joint venture, personally, you can call that I'm like a people director, right? HR. And basically we have about close to 5,000 people in the Brunei Shell joint venture, and also about 20,000+ business partners, contractors that actually have contracts with us. And the first thing that we talk about is the safety and the well-being of our people. So when we talk about safety and the well-being of people, then we are actually touching on the mental health of our people, especially that majority of people are actually working from home now. And then we're talking about safety of our operation. And third, but the most important as well, is no less important, is the fact that we have a big responsibility on our shoulder to actually ensure that we continue to feel energy in Brunei. So what does that mean? It means, I'm going to end there, it means we need to continue to ensure when you switch on the power, you have power in your house. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Zainab. It's quite impressive figures, 5,000 employees, 12,000 business partners, and a lot of juggling with a lot of different elements. And I also wanted to note that the SP program, Duty of Care, I am okay, are you okay, are just some of the things I'm really looking for, maybe to hear from the audience as well, or maybe their own professional challenges they have at work and how maybe other HR professionals can learn from each other, myself included, to be honest. Zainab, thank you for your 2 cents there. Next speaker, we have Dr. Helena Huraira, consultant ophthalmologist, I hope I pronounced that right, and the president of the Brunei Ophthalmology Society. Dr. Helena and I, I had the pleasure of listening into you in the last Impact Dialogue at University Brunei Darussalam, where we organized with PMGBD, where she shared her own insights on that topic then. And only to find out that Dr. Helena are friends with Tuan Dini and Ashmir, being someone involved in the youth scene sometime earlier on in the first wave. Really looking forward to hear on her thoughts, not just as a youth advocate, but also a health worker. Dr. Helena.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all staying at home. So I think in terms of what I feel about the topic is that we are in our second wave, and I see the resilience, which I would define as the quality to maybe bounce back from adversities. So we've been through it one time, but for me, speaking in a youth context, because you have a lot of advantage, I think, right now of information, ease of information. So it's not just using this adversity, this second wave to bounce back, but I can see a lot of youth groups, the community, not only are they slowly bouncing back, but they're kind of striving under the pressure. I'm definitely seeing a lot more community involvement because we've had that experience from the first wave. And that is part of resilience as well, taking the experience you've had from a period of adversity. It's not the first time we've been through this, carrying it forward, using what you learned from that, and using it to strive under the next period of adversity. And that goes not just for this pandemic situation, but it goes for your lives, your professional lives, your personal lives. So, I mean, I feel with this talk, and, you've got a range of experience, really amazing experience and amazing speakers. It's not just about, how I would say, it's nothing we can teach you, but we can share our experiences and we can share what we did when we were in similar situations as you, what we turned to mentally, spiritually, physically, etc., to help us cope and come out better and stronger. So, that's where the kind of perspective that I'm coming from this perspective. I'm also a medical educator, so I look after the junior doctors. So we're talking about the doctors who finish medical school and they're in their first 2 years of training. So, helping them through a period where they've all been really excited. They finished medical school. They are, so excited to be doctors, and suddenly their training is just stopped. So you can imagine the kind of mental health impact that comes along with that. So yeah, I'm really interested that this is as interactive as possible. I think as young professionals, you will go through very similar stages. I'm sure, Puan Hajah Zainab has seen, because she, working in HR, you see them in all the ranges, don't you? So yeah, just use us, draw from our experience, and we're more than happy to share. But yeah, you just be interactive, okay?
Thanks so much, Dr. Helena. I think that what really piqued my interest is I never really thought of you as a medical educator. We have not realizing that there are health professionals who are just coming out from education, coming into actual practical scenes where they don't really know what to do. Suddenly I'm thinking of Grey's Anatomy and all that, where it's just really daunting to just really deal with patients and the emotional weight that comes with it. And also quite interested to hear more on yourself, being one of our more social media savvy persons on self-care tips, which are things that I feel is quite important, especially in the context of your work. And thank you for your service to the country at this time of need. Thank you, Dr. Helena. For next, we have our California-based speaker who just arrived, I think, doing her studies there. Ms. Hazira Ahmad. She's the Executive Director for Cope for Hope for Brunei. So that's Cope for Hope Brunei. Hazira and I had the pleasure also on Suara Kita Ni, where we had an interview on the work they are doing as a mental health NGO. I'd like to welcome Hazira to the floor. Okay, I note from the technical host that she's suddenly missing. She's just informed me that her Zoom just shut down. That's all right. I'm just gonna go to another speaker before we come back to Hazira. Okay, next on the speakers list, we have Lieutenant Retired Dini Haji Karib, the president of the Brunei Darussalam Counseling Association, PEKA, PEKA. And he is also a counselor for Royal Brunei Airlines. Actually, Tuan Dini, we had the pleasure, actually my first time meeting you in this context, tapi apparently you're much more famous in the youth scene. So myself pun belum lagi berjumpa sama kita. But I am actually quite well interested in the work that you've been doing as a counselor in the last decade. So even way longer that you've already been involved before mental health had become a buzzword. Apalagi tah dengan in providing support systems for volunteers. And I think if I want to just take a note there, it's quite, you were involved in the infamous Bell 212 helicopter crash in Blyth back in 2012. So, and from then on, involving yourself in earthquake disaster situation. So I think that's quite interesting and intriguing to hear more. Tuan Dini, floor is yours.
Alhamdulillah, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Terima kasih pengurusi Fazli Abang Fazli. Bersyukurlah dapat dijemput pada hari malam ini untuk bersama-sama menimba ilmu dan berkongsi ilmu kepada semua yang ada di dalam chat hari ini. Alhamdulillah, saya sebagai seorang kaunselor lebih kurang 15 tahun dan terlibat dengan berbagai kejadian-kejadian krisis, tepatnya gempa bumi, tsunami, dan juga terlibat dengan air crash dan juga perperangan, pembunuhan ya. So bila kita dilihat daripada segi mental itu sendiri, apa yang kita bincangkan pada hari ini adalah amat penting sebenarnya. Emosi, perasaan di mana-mana boleh terjadi terganggunya. Apatah lagi apabila kita ni di Brunei ini dengan krisis, bagi kita ni satu krisis yang pasarah di Brunei ini, iaitu COVID-19. Kita ni belum lagi, nauzubillah, mudah-mudahan tidak dijauhkan juga daripada krisis-krisis seperti gempa bumi ataupun tsunami ataupun bencana alam ataupun krisis yang melibatkan seperti di luar negara, pembunuhan, apa ini semua. So nauzubillah, mudah-mudahan tidak akan berlaku di Brunei. Dan alhamdulillah bagi saya paling utama yang perlu kita lihat di sini adalah ketahanan mental. Macam mana kita sebagai, sama ada Anda sebagai sukarelawan, Anda sebagai pekerja frontliner, dimanapun Anda berada. Yang paling penting di sini sama ada macam mana kita boleh bertahan dengan keadaan kita pada masa ini, iaitu menjaga mental kita ni. Because saya melihat di sini, saya mau into kesan selepas kejadian, contohnya trauma, what we call it, PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. Sebab itulah kami kalau di mana pengalaman saya di semasa melibatkan diri dengan sukarelawan yang terjadi di Filipina, di Lombok, di Aceh dan di mana juga, di sini persiapan kita sebenarnya, di mana kita ni ada ketahanan, kekuatan untuk menjadi seorang sukarelawan, dan yaitu sebelum, semasa dan selepas. Ini yang perlu kita dilihat ni sebenarnya. Memang orang kita ni Brunei ni pasal orang tu kadang-kadang ingin membantu ni, sangat kuat keinginan kita ni di Brunei, no doubt. Sangat orang tu, sukarelawan kita ni, penderma kita ni excellent. Orang tu boleh dikatakan hebat. Cuma di sini akan kita lihat bagaimana kita ni sebagai frontliner, sukarelawan, sama ada kita ni di rumah kah, di mana, macam mana kita ni mengekalkan ketahanan mental kita ni itu supaya kita ni masih orang tu fit, masih orang tu berfungsi secara rasional. Itulah mungkin saya akan membincangkan sedikit lagi, Tuan Fadli, macam mana tata cara bis kita ataupun diri kita ni untuk mendapat kekuatan, walaupun di mana kita ni berada, wherever we are, ada you are frontliner ke, volunteers. So ini penting, because jangan sampai kejadian satu nanti, maklum sajalah sebagai sukarelawan ni banyak-banyak kita ni dengar sudah selama ni, ada yang cabaran-cabaran masa menjaga pesakit pun, ada yang Syamil tadi, ada yang dinding bubus, bukan sana mengawal orang ni, dan apatah lagi mengantar barang pun kena marahi juga. Jadi banyak cabaran-cabaran yang sepatutnya yang kita ni hadapi ni, apatah lagi semasa krisis ni, bukan sedikit ni sebenarnya, walaupun ni berlaku sebenarnya, untung kita ni untung, pasal saya begitu, untung kita ni mempelajari sesuatu dalam kejadian krisis ini, dan bagaimana kita ni untuk mempersiapkan diri kita ni untuk menghadapi situasi yang mungkin nauzubillah jika berlaku sesuatu yang lebih besar. So insyaAllah sekarang saya akan menerangkan sedikit macam mana kita boleh dapat kekuatan, prepare diri kita ni sebelum, semasa dan sesudah. Itulah insyaAllah.
Terima kasih Tuan Dini. I think that is a huge wealth of experience yang kami dapat mempelajari dari bis kita je. Coming into next, I'll go straight to Ashmir. Hazira is having trouble connecting at the moment. Ashmir Ahmad is also, what we like to do at the Young Professionals Network is also to champion our own members as well. Ashmir being someone who's been involved in the youth community for a long time through student body work in UBD, and now at Jabatan Pembangunan Masyarakat at the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sports, and very, very proud to also present one of our volunteers from Sukarelawan Belia COVID-19. Ashmir, floor is yours.
Okay, Fadli, thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good evening kepada semua. First thing I would like to say adalah macam merasa little bit of imposter syndrome lah dengan orang-orang yang hebat-hebat yang kami ada pada masa ini. But I would like to just go to our topic today, which is resilient in the times of uncertainties. So our resilient pada masa ini is what we know with the second wave that came. Something what Dr. Helena has said, that we had the experience from the past, from the first wave itself. But what was the best thing to see that we have adapted from that experience. We have seen apa yang perlu dibaiki, and immediately we did the action. So for me, the resilience that we're looking into is the action, whereby right now, if we're talking about mental health ataupun emotional ataupun even physical tiredness ataupun apa, right now we know that the borders are closed. We are in partial lockdown, and we know that there are no places for our students to have their internship places. We know there are a lot of jabatan. We know there are a lot of private sectors that they are kerja, like offices are shut down and people have to work from home. And for some people, to stay at home is more difficult for them rather than the office. So for the opportunities that the government has provided in terms of the National Volunteering Platform, which is Sukarelawan Belia, as well as the initiative of sending food rations to the people who are quarantined, and especially the mental health of the people who are undergoing quarantine for 2 weeks, for 14 hari di rumah. They can't go anywhere, they cannot meet anyone. So I believe that right now, whoever is coming in front as a volunteer, as an officer who has been appointed to do any of the tasking, or even a student who's looking for a place for internship ataupun a placement. So whatever people are doing right now, even a simple act of supporting one another is really important pada masa ni, because it's us who's gonna support one another for us to overcome all this mental health ataupun apa. So for me, in terms of resilient, it's we have to be quick, we have to plan, we have to adapt. If anything goes wrong, we have to restructure, and then we have to improve, and then we have to act again. So whatever we do, let's work together as one. And remember, it's a whole of a nation approach pada masa ni, especially pada masa ni. And Alhamdulillah, with the recent collaborations from everyone, from the public sector, from private sectors, from NGOs, and especially every single volunteer, Pabakta, the person has never been part of any organizations, just by being a normal volunteer, we have seen the lovely structure of a whole of a nation approach. And with this, I can probably say we are heading in the right way for the Wawasan 2035. So I think that's it from me, Fadli, and let's get interacted with everyone. And I hope that we do get interact with everyone. So guys, please shoot us up with questions, and inshallah, we will try our best to answer your questions. Back to you, Fadli.
Thanks so much, Ashmir. In such a time where it's so dreadful or disheartening, especially today's cases have always been very discouraging, and seeing comments that are very distasteful on social media, I think these are very challenging times, but it says a lot on wanting to stay positive, not just blind positivity, but also taking that with action. Thanks so much, Ashmir, and to our fellow speakers that have shared. I still have not received any news from our California-based speaker, unfortunately, but inshallah, she'll join us in soon, and I won't waste too much time. And I have noticed there is a stream of questions coming in, not just here in Zoom, but also on YouTube. So that's great to hear that interaction already. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I left a message there on the chat box. We'd like to hear from you now. Questions, reactions, comments from the chat box, or to hear you live from the microphone, as Impact Dialogue is about a dialogue between you and speakers, and including myself as well. I don't see any hands up yet, but I would love to have this interaction with you rather than me reading the questions. But for the time being, if you do have questions and you've decided to be brave about it, please raise your hand. But I do want to acknowledge the question that we just received on YouTube. It's from a gentleman and a dear friend, Faik Rani. I'm going to read out the question here. When the pandemic hit, people responded in myriad different ways, but only those who had managed to thrive were the ones who accepted the reality of the situation immediately. Unflinchingly, there is no progress without first accepting the particulars of circumstances in which you find yourself. Would the speakers agree? I'm just going to put it out there, and if the speakers would like to put their hands up, please feel free to comment on that first remark and question from our friend Faik Rani earlier on. Once again, for participants who have a question or remark, comment, please feel free to raise your hand, including YPN members as well. Please do that as well. Oh, I see Hazira that just came in. That's great to hear, to see her. But since I've shared that question, I'll just try to table that on the side for now. Hazira, just to catch you up, we were just getting speakers to share their thoughts on the theme. Let me just give you 1 minute just to share your quick thoughts, and then we'll go straight into the dialogue. Hazira, the floor is yours.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Thank you, Fadli. I'll be really quick. But for me, resilience is about going through adversity and having the outcome not determine who you are and negatively impact you. So I think the second wave has definitely hit Brunei a lot harder than the first wave. And to see the community resilience on day one, where people kind of had all these initiatives to help these various communities, I think is going to be very important and in determining how Brunei's new normal is going to be and how the future is going to be. So I'm really excited about this topic and really excited to talk more about mental health and to just be here generally. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Azira. I hope California is doing well for you. And I know it's early morning there, but thank you for joining us. So that's the founder for Cope for Hope for Brunei. And I just want to note that I enjoyed the event, Everybody event, just before the pandemic, well, the second wave pandemic hit. So I'm looking forward to also listen to you from an NGO perspective as a mental health advocate. Once again, thank you for joining us. So just in the middle of conversing earlier, I'm welcoming Hazira. We were just receiving a number of questions. I see another one there from Yang Muhammad Hafimi. Thank you for joining us for that. But I'm just going to focus on the two questions here. Oh, I see another hand up. Is that you, Nadia?
Hi, Fadli. Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Nadia Aji. And so, yeah, a question from all of the speakers tonight is, what are your coping strategies or experience in tackling this tough situation? Because it has been really hard for me personally, it is the 100% coursework in my university and doing it from home, and as well as communication, the lack of communication due to using technology. And yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm disconnected from my friends because they're also having a hard time. And then when they're not replying, I might like, or do they hate me? Did I do something wrong? Yeah. So my question is, what's your coping strategies during this hard time?
Thank you, Nadia. So Nadia is from YPN, and thank you for sharing your thoughts. I'm just going to synthesize the questions a bit here. I feel that Nadia's question is a bit similar to YB Hafimi, where Nadia looks at it from more of a personal level on how she can cope socially, while YB Hafimi may angle it to a sense where professionals and within the industries and sectors on coping strategies or advocating against such challenges. I think the last one there from Faik that I shared earlier, on views of accepting circumstances. I think these questions are quite interrelated, and I see two hands up there. I'm gonna give the floor to Panaja Zainab and then Dr. Helena. And ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to come in with your thoughts, arguments, and just come in and interact in the chat. Panaja Zainab, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Fadli. I was quite interested when I look at the YB Puan Hafimi punya soalan tadi ya. So basically, personally, on a personal level, my experience, one of the few things or approaches that really help, because we're talking about leadership, yeah, what do we do to address all these uncertainties and stuff? So in a nutshell, I practice what we call the heart of resilient leaders. So there's 5 approaches in it. So basically, you start with what we call designing from the heart. So what's that mean? What is it really? So in a nutshell, what it means is that you ask the question, how are you balancing empathy and the decisiveness to serve your employees, your colleagues, your peers, and the organization, your customers and communities, and also the ecosystems that you have to work with? And then the second one is putting the mission first. So what do you mean by that when you put the heart of resilient leaders? So here again, you ask the question, how are you turning the COVID-19 crisis into an opportunity to emerge yourself stronger? Yeah. And the third one is about how you own your own narrative. So what do I mean by that? So again, how are you proactively filling the information or the misinformation, the vacuum that's created in order to combat all the spread of misinformations and rumors, whether in your organization, in the society, and things like that, depending on what role you're playing. This is very critical. And the fourth one is about embracing the long term. Okay, the word long term comes in, people start thinking, oh, long term, we are even taking things step at a time, right? So here again, we ask ourselves the question as leaders. So how are you anticipating and responding to the new business model likely to emerge post the COVID-19 stabilization, if you know what I mean? And a lot of people call it the new normal or whatever it may be. We've been through that last year when we were passing the first wave. And we learn from that into the second wave, and it's still, evolving. And last but not least, choosing the speed over elegance. So I like this. So it's basically, how are you empowering your teams, the people around you, to take courageous actions in a very volatile environment? So these are the things that I practice, the Heart of Resilient Leaders, as I call it. This is something that is also coming out from Deloitte Global Positioning research paper, and I really love it, and I really practice it, and it does help us, you know. So I'm going to stop there because somebody else might want to add to it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Zainab. I'm actually just trying to catch up on all the notes that you were just sharing, especially the Deloitte part that you just shared. And I like how the angling of this and actually really coming back to the original intent for this is to really define resilience a bit better. I'm going to pause there. I'm going to pass the floor to Dr. Helena. Floor's yours.
Yeah, so really interesting questions, and it's kind of the same question, just phrased in a different way. But I would say, and the WHO, there was this really interesting talk that the WHO, and he said this pandemic has brought out the best and worst in humanity. And I think we can see 49 days in that we're starting to see that undercurrent that's probably been there. I think we need to be realistic about our society and the nuances that go underneath it. And it's all surfacing, and that's the danger of social media. And then, as when Haja Zainab said, you must empower yourself with social media. And this goes back to, there's an article I wrote about self-care. I would just put it simply, think of McDonald's, right? If you eat McDonald's from time to time, it's okay. But if you eat it every day, your body is not going to be very healthy. And it's the same with this information. You can get really caught up in these comments that you see. You can really get caught up in manggil ko vaval tahanita, right? And I think as a medical profession, how we've coped, and that goes to, I think, one of the questions someone's asked in the chat box is, how do we cope, right? And the thing is, we tend to view people with an eye of empathy. Yes, okay, I've seen comments going like, oh, low IQ ta, foreign workers, this and that. And it's not nice to see. And I consciously limit how much I take of that. Even PCNA, I'll maybe get the numbers, not even every day, because I'm swabbing at the moment and I really have to protect my own mind, right? So I think in terms of now that we're seeing the worst come up, we're seeing the not so pleasant side of our communities. You need take this time as an opportunity to self-reflect. How are you viewing people, because they're not behaving like that because of saja-saja kan. Why does that guy do karaoke in an isolation center? Why are people stealing things from an ISO center? Yes, I think you can say macam, such a privileged community, they're just spoiled, but I mean, is that really true? So I think this is what's coming up now for me in terms of 49 days in, what I'm seeing, but also what I'm protecting myself from seeing. So yeah, I think I will pass the floor to anyone else who has any comments.
Thanks, Dr. Helena. I totally relate to that. I think by the second week of the PCs, especially in the second wave, it was just a lot to take in, and the uncertainties and the really weird, not weird, but the unexpected number of cases compared to the first wave. And I think having to control over one's body is one thing, but control over one's mind is another. So I definitely agree with that, especially being responsible about your own mind as well. Thank you, Dr. Helena. I'll pass on the floor to Ashmir. I see another hand up there. And Tuan Dini, if you do need to speak and do want to speak, please raise your hand, because I do want to give the chance. And I see another hand up there, Alhamdulillah, from Zafira Julahi. I'll get back to you after Ashmir's comments. Thank you. Ashmir, floor's yours.
Okay, thank you, Fadli, and thank you, Zainab, as well as Dr. Helena, for your inputs just tadi. Would just like to add in sedikit, and would like to tackle the question from Faik as well as Miss Hannah. So for me, both of these questions can be interrelated with one another. How do we cope? For me, being one of the person who was leading the food centers, the distribution of foods to home quarantine individuals, which Alhamdulillah, today we have exceeded 11,000 houses in less than 2 months. And how we coped up all this time, I would agree with Faik. To cope with something is to actually understand and to admit that there is a problem, and to know that there is something that we need to get fixed, and there's something that need to be done. So selagi we don't admit it that there is something going on, and yeah, we won't be able to do it. For me, at first, just to share with everyone, while we were receiving the list from the Ministry of Health for the people who are undergoing quarantine, and it started with phone calls. So daily we were receiving about 20 to 30 houses, and everything was going quite okay. But when our Yang Berhormat Minister of Health announced in the PC that people can book their food via Brew Health, and boom, the first day itself we received over 1,500 houses, and the next day we received about 1,600 houses. And all those houses to be delivered in one day was something that looked impossible. It took me about 3 to 4 days. I couldn't sleep at night just to think about people who were hungry, who couldn't go out of their houses just to wait for food, and we were not able to give the food. And with all those pressures and the sleepless nights, what we could do was re-strategize. How are we going to do it? We need to admit that we are in problem and we need help. So that's something that we should be doing. We need to admit that we need help. None of us are Superman who can do everything on their own. So for me, how do I cope with everything? I have to admit that I need help. So I have to reach out to people. I have to reach out to the people who are who have similar experiences, who can relate to what I'm trying to say, and who would be happy in lending a helping hand. So this came with the support from every private sector and the government sector, where everybody became one, with the opening of the National Command Center of COVID-19 at ICC. So this was after we have admitted that actually we need help, okay? So selagi we keep it to ourselves, selagi itu we cannot cope, because that's a burden that we're carrying and we cannot share this burden to anyone. So for me, we need to admit that there's a problem, we need to fix that problem, and we need to share that we need help. So, and selagi we don't share this, that we need help, it will definitely ruin our mental health. We will start to question ourselves, we will start to be depressed, and then do not want to talk with anyone, be moody with the people who love us, with our families and friends. Macam somebody asks, how are you? Ataupun macam like, apa usulnya ni? You know, like those kind of things. So for me, communication is always the key. So we need to communicate, we need to talk with people, we need help. And if somebody asks for help, if we can help, let's help them. So I think that's pretty much for it for me, Fadli, about how do I cope? I ask for help.
Thanks
Fadli.
Thanks, Ashmir, for that. I think that responds directly with Faik's initial comment as well. I do note, Tuan Dini, you've raised your hand, and I do note there are some questions that just came in on the chat box. That's great. If we haven't been able to answer your questions directly, the speakers, please feel free to interact on the chat box as well. Tuan Dini, let me just get back to you. I'd like to introduce Ms. Zafira Julahi as our second question, second person to ask a question, hopefully live on mic. If I can just have her on video and mic, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well. Zafira, could you introduce yourself and your question?
Yeah, it said you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Okay, no worries. We'll have a technical person allow you to share in a bit. If you could just introduce yourself and where you're from and your comment.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Zavera. So I'm from Brunei, Muara, and I'm a fresh graduate from UBD. So I like to share some thoughts for, I think it was Nadia. I think she said that she's working on schoolwork and all that. And I had my fair share of experience with online studying, and I understand how 100% coursework is really tough. So the three main things that I do personally to cope is mindfulness, self-compassion, and also empathy. It's for mindfulness, I would say, pasalnya we always think about the future, think about the past, especially if you're stuck at home, you tend to not be busy, if you don't have like work laha. So keeping yourself mindful in the present, like meditating or even cooking, or if you do plants, water plants and all that, working out, that's personally what I do. It really helps because you remind yourself that you're here, present at home. That's one. Self-compassion is not being so hard on yourself, because we tend to be our worst critics and macam, I have this due on tonight, tapi nya alum siap bla 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 tu. You have to remember that we are in the middle of a pandemic and workloads itu, it's like normally you won't have that much of work lah. So just do the best that you can and be honest with your professors. They will understand that we are in the middle of a pandemic, and not only students are having it hard, lecturers are also having it hard. Everyone's having it hard. So we need to be more kinder with ourselves. And empathy too, I really agree on Dr. Helena and Ashmir that we need to understand why people are reacting the way they are. Human beings are different, and the way we act and react are also different. We need to understand kenapa, like that person yang nyanyi arah NIC. Like our first thought is, kenapa kurang ajar nada basic manners? Tapi maybe that's their way of coping, especially since they're the ones yang patients kan. We can't really understand. Tapi not saying that their actions is good. It's still not good, but you know what I mean, like being understanding towards one another, because being hard to one another also won't help. And communicating is also really important, because it's okay to ask for help, because as Ashmir said, we're not superhuman. We're only human, and we're doing the best that we can. So that's the three things that I would say to cope in a personal level, which is like self-compassion, empathy, and mindfulness. Thank you.
Thank you, Zafira. I really thank you and honor your words. Those are really three key things myself have been learning, relearning, and practicing from a dear friend as well. Thank you also for sharing that from your point of view. I think that also comes in this conversation about defining resilience a bit better, especially coming from on the ground from people who really experiences it. I actually want to echo that with Izian Anver's comment here on the chat box. How do you tackle and communicate with people who make changes to the workflow? And there's another frustration there about how can she deal and cope with the stresses that she has with I think people management themselves. And I think if I understand correctly, Izian coming from the sukarelawan scene, and the coordination for that scale has been affecting volunteers quite hugely, and how we can how can we digest that. I think adding on to Fauzia's comment here as well about equity and access for young people, if you could also look at the full question here, speakers, to look at that. I'm just going to allow the floor to Tuan Dini. I know you haven't been able to have the chance to speak yet. Please feel free to share your thoughts based on the questions that's been shared. Floor is yours, Tuan Dini.
Terima kasih, thank you for Tuan Fadlin. Alhamdulillah, di sini saya ingin membawa kepada, sorry, sikit ada. Okay, di mana sebagai sukarelawan ni memanglah ataupun seperti yang dipersoalkan tadi, there's a lot of challenge. Every time, every day, every single second there is a challenge. That's the thing. How we cope ourselves on handling or facing the situation. Kadang-kadang kita ni tanpa kita ni duga, there's some issues is coming through yang kita ni tidak ada expected. So this is sebagai seorang kawan, kalau kita melihat, my specialist in critical incident stress management. So di sini perlu kita melihat sebagai sebelum kita join ataupun pada awalnya ada saya memberitahu tadi, prepare yourself sebelum, semasa dan sesudah. Contohnya di sini, this is a technique actually. That's why sebelum kita ni terjun ke bidang sukarelawan yang seperti yang dipersoalkan tadi untuk cabaran-cabaran yang dihadapi semasa menjalankan tugas-tugas sebagai sukarelawan, perlu ada 3 ini. Satu, persiapkan diri sebelum. You have to know everything. What happened actually? If you want to be a sukarelawan, you have to know what's happened during the sukarelawan, what are they doing, and then what is the task, what is the orang tu, siapa yang akan jaga, and everything lah. And then you have to prepare if you ready, because dalam sukarelawan ni banyak nih sekarang, seperti contohnya macam yang di NIC, ada menjaga kanak-kanak. Jadi kesedihan akan timbul melihat orang kadang-kadang seperti doktor melihat kematian, and then kadang-kadang orang yang mengantar makanan ini melihat kemiskinan, orang yang susah. Ini yang akan menjadi impact kepada diri kita ini. So bila impact ini terjadi, apabila kita ini melihat, kalau kita ini bersedia, ianya akan menjadikan pada diri kita ini post-traumatic stress disorder, sindrom yang berkekalan apabila in a few month time, bis kita akan menjadi impactnya, kesannya yang besar adalah bis kita. Kita boleh saja, kalau kita tidak bersiap sedia, boleh saja kita untuk indah bertidur, mimpi ngeri, jadi heavy smoker, or anything can be happen. Ada sampai pun membunuh diri. Jadi ini yang perlu kita tahu. Satu, tanya diri kita nih, adakah aku bersedia untuk memberi bantuan? Adakah aku bersedia untuk menghadapi semua ini? Ketahui apa yang terjadi sebenarnya. Then before you start, you have to talk to yourself. Contohnya, kalau dalam prosedur CISM, memang saya akan menyatakan pada diri saya berkata pada diri saya, talk to yourself. Saya bersedia untuk melaksanakan tanggungjawab ini, untuk membantu orang lain dan meninggalkan tanggungjawab saya sebagai seorang sebagai ketua rumah itu. So within the 8 hours 8 jam, ingat tuan, sebagai sukarelawan, you have to be macam doktor, no matter who you are, you have to be a schedule. Paling lama 8 jam, because this crisis will be continuously. Kalau orang kita ni tadi bila aku cakap, you can do it, kadang-kadang sanggup berkorban sampai 24 jam. Tapi sebenarnya itu satu sudah impact arah diri kita ni. Bila kita ni bekerja 24 jam, bis kita akan harm to yourself. Menjadikan arah diri kita ni kesakitan. Because kita ni perlu berfungsi untuk jangka masa yang panjang. That's why you have to be square. Kedua, yang penting semasa dalam kejadian itu, bis kita perlu bersedia melihat kejadian atau expect sesuatu. Contohnya macam saya sendiri dulu, apabila kami ke Lombok, tanpa kami sedari, kami tidak ada fully debrief, tidak ada terus-terus rajun ke sana. Suddenly, kami menyadari. 3 hari kami di kawasan Gunung Ranjani, di mana kawasan yang paling terjejas. Apabila kami balik ke Brunei, hampir myself, Dr. Toniza sendiri, muntah darah. Jadi because of the effect of this, yang kami dah sedari, yang kami dah tahu. Sama juga macam bis kita, yang frontliner, yang you have to know this thing. Jadi bila terjadi perkara ini, rupanya bila kami di Lombok, kami kurang minum air, keadaan sajok, dan sulfur yang naik daripada muka bumi yang nampak itu, ia mengandungkan panuan kami lah di dalam Jadi ia mengibatkan kami dalam kesakitan. Jadi kami melihat ada mayat masih bergelimpangan, bau. Jadi perkara ini yang boleh menjejaskan kita ni, perlu ada kekuatan. Dan paling lama kita ni berkhidmat sebagai sukarelawan, persoalan tadi itu, how you cope with it. Please, paling lama 8 jam. Make it schedule. 8 jam, at least you have enough time to rest, then back to work. Ya, ada kalau boleh 3 shift. Seperti macam doktor pun mesti. In this crisis, you have to do it. Jangan kita ni bekerja sampai kadang-kadang melebihi 8 jam, because bila kita sudah dalam keletihan, semua sudah keletihan, siapa yang akan membantu nanti? Ada juga persoalan, ada pembentangan saya semalam, di mana ada satu persoalan yang cantik juga. Fadli, give me time sikit. Ini macam mana saya mau jadi sukarelawan, tapi saya tidak ada kemampuannya. Ini satu soalan yang cantik. Anda sebenarnya sudah jadi sukarelawan. Bahkan bila Anda teranah di rumah itu, sebenarnya Anda sudah sukarelawan. Cukup dengan doa dan mematuhi juga arahan kerajaan untuk stay at home, Anda sudah melakukan sukarelawan pun. Anda sudah berjuang, sama-sama berjuang. Jangan dianggap kita di rumah itu kita ni bukan sukarelawan. Jadi di sini perlu, this is the time that we have to gain experience during the crisis ini. Untung kita ni kena bagi ilmu ataupun di cabaran-cabaran ini, because our community we have to learn something new every time, day to day, Okay, maaf. Yang ketiga lagi tadi, setelah kita ni balik daripada bertugas, we have to talk to yourself balik. Okay, now saya sudah melaksanakan tugas saya sebagai sukarelawan, contoh ya, dan saya akan kembali bertugas sebagai seorang ketua keluarga. Why perkara ini dilakukan? Satu contoh saya beri di sini. Apabila macam bis kita akan memandu keluar hari ini. Okay. Hari ini aku akan memandu. I want to chill saja. Okay. I want to be patient. I want to be relaxed. And then aku akan marah-marah. When you drive to, and then someone cross over, or you almost accident. Because you talk to yourself sudah, dapat. Kali orang itu gagas kali apa itu ni. Tapi when you're not talking to yourself, turun bekerja macam itu saja, and then suddenly someone pass you over, and then you almost accident. When it almost accident, then memang and then banyak-banyak bahasa keluar. So this is the thing yang sebab itu dalam critical incident stress management, you have to know before you go to do something. You have to know, prepare yourself. That's why when you prepare yourself, you have to know your responsibility. Apa kejadian di sana? Jangan sudah kejadian di sana nanti at the end bis kita pulang yang kena peduli. Okay, itu saja. Back to you, Fazli.
Thank you, Tuan Dini. I spoken like a true counselor. It's also about the situation, how you interpret it. Tuan Dini, and well, I've seen a lot of messages coming in. Thank you so much for participating. If I am not able to answer, or if the speakers are not able to answer live, speakers, please feel free to answer the questions directly on the chat box. I see 2 hands up. I'm going to focus back on the live mic and camera. If I can have Afik to spotlight, maybe we'll have Miss Hayati Kamis first. She is one of our dear YPN mentors as well. If I can just have her on the mic and camera for her reaction comments, and if she can also introduce herself as well to the audience. Go for it.
Video. Hi everyone. Assalamualaikum. Okay. I think I have a probably sharing session, also a question at the end. So with the current pandemic, in an organization and from a corporate point of view, there are concerns on motivation. Right now, I think a lot of us, probably most of us are working from home, studying from home. And with the conversation about motivation, it's very difficult to instill because sometimes we wake up to go to work virtually. We just sometimes tap in virtually and go back to sleep and wake up at 12 to answer emails. That happens. I did that once. But because, again, the reason is because of motivation. Because when we're home, we see our laptop, but it's next to our bed. We go to the bed or we do work on bed and then we fall asleep. And then, and day in and day out, it's just the same thing. For my own staff and for myself, to just give an example, what I do is I would actually personally text my staff every now and then to check how are they doing, how are you, not how are you during this crucial time. But just to give a bit of background, before my current job, I was in the oil and gas industry. I was hit by the first wave of COVID and I unfortunately got released from my previous job. So every single day, it was a bit of back then last year, every single day, it was a huge confusion. And every day you're just waiting for the love letter from HR. Am I going to get laid off? Am I staying? I don't know. But now with the second wave, Alhamdulillah, I am employed. But I see that more prevalent with my colleagues, with my friends, that it's more anxiety inducing as ever because we're hit really hard with the second wave. My question might be a bit pessimistic, but how do we want to communicate to our team members, to our friends, to our peers, or to our personnel? How do we want to prepare them for the worst so that we can instill or probably inspire them to be resilient? We have a lot of conversation. We have a lot of conversation about you have to be resilient, you have to be this, you have to be that. But how do we want to relay that to others? We're not gonna stick to our bubble and think it's gonna work out tomorrow. Okay, okay. But that cannot be our thinking right now. We always have to be prepared for the worst. But sometimes it's a difficult topic. It's a difficult conversation even. So my question is probably to ask advice. How do we want to communicate that to how do we want to communicate to others on preparing for the worst? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, YPN mentor Hayati Kamis. I like that question on how to communicate on preparing for the worst. It's been something that I think if you see yourself professionally or leading a team, it's quite daunting, and how you want to really explore confidence for that. I'm just gonna bookmark that before I pass the floor to the speakers. I would like to give the next mic and camera to Khadija Azman Sham to share her comments, remarks. If I can just have your mic and camera switched on. All right, I see her coming on now. Khadija, can you hear us? I don't seem to hear her yet. I'm not sure if she's there. While she sorts that out, I see another hand up. Just one last one there from Matthias Belay. Oh, okay. I hear Khadija coming in. Khadija, can you hear us?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Oh, sorry.
Hello, thank you
Hi,
for joining
sorry.
us.
Yeah, it's my first time actually joining this type of dialogue.
No worries,
Apologies for that. So yeah, my name is Khadija. Yeah, just want to share my experience. I'm currently working with BSB with Haja Zainab as an engineer. I'm a mother of three children, 2-year-old and a 7-month twins. So I just gave birth to twins 7 months ago. So yeah, my first time. So just want to share my experience though. During the start of the second wave, actually my anxiety level honestly went off the roof because like I just got back from offshore Champion 7 and I came back home spending time with my kids. So of course I was thinking about the cases on Champion 7 is increasing, and thinking about my kids the positive cases from Champion 7 just got off. So as the case increases, I was actually identified as a close contact, but from a different cluster from my office, was instructed to go for a swab. So eventually I went, and at that night I couldn't sleep while waiting for. But I thought of myself, instead of feeling anxious, what if all this, what if happening, going through my head, I instantly that night when I couldn't sleep, BCP, business continuity plan for my own family. What if my number one kid is, if I got positive, what if my number one child is positive, but the 2 is okay? Who will go to the isolation center with them? What if the twin got positive, or one of the twin, the 7 months twin got positive? Then who will go? So I had to create that BCP for my own family in case I was positive. Just so during my results came in, there's no time to feeling depressed and sad, but you just have to comply to MOH SOP. So, but alhamdulillah, my result came back negative. So I just had to continue my quarantine order, and it was a challenging time coping with it. And as well, during that time I was developing my own department offshore BCP. And at the same time, on top of that, I've taken care of my kids, groceries, dinners, and so I think it was kind of a mess during the first few days. But I think instead of me being overreacted, I realized slowly there's foods being provided, being sent to my home, and then I just realized, whoa. I should be more grateful instead of being overreacted. So I step back and I reflect, and I reflect that I should be more grateful that I am safe with my family at home, and I'm able to survive during this hard time. And so I might just utilize the runners to get my groceries and so on. So during my reflection, I had rethought on how I can play and on how I can plan my day-to-day routine, and alhamdulillah, so far so good. At work, I organize a weekly check-in with my colleagues, organize games and quiz every 2 weeks with the whole department, so that we have a feel that we are still visual connecting with the people in the office. So and yeah, I agree with Dr. Helena that self-care is important. I have MACD once in a while, but I guess being a mother and also a leader in the department, self-care is very important. Like this, so personal development, like joining this type of forum, is part of my self-care. So the kids are asleep now, and it's the weekend, so this is part of my self-care and something for me to learn more and develop more. So again, I've been able to utilize what you call a learner mindset on how I'm going through this. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Khadija, Azman, Sham, and thank you for your service, serving in the oil and gas industry, as well as being a mother. I'm sure that experience and anxiety was no easy feat to go through, and the honesty that you have in sharing this so far, I'm sure it does resonate with the previous commenter, Hayati, on how do you project confidence as a department leader, company leader in preparing for the worst, and you have experienced the worst or even not so more. I'm gonna pause on that and just allow one last participant to just come in for this round before I hand the floor to our speakers, where I see some 3 hands up there. Matthias Pelayan, the camera and mic is yours. I don't hear you yet. Is your microphone unmuted? All right, I see you well. Can you speak?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Could you introduce yourself and your comment, remark, or question?
Hi. My name is Matthews. So I work with BSP as well. So and also just to share a bit about my experience being working the working arrangement, especially during the second wave, and also I would like to end with a question. So just to share, currently working in a 1 week work from home, 1 week from the site rotation base currently. So definitely during the beginning period of the second wave, so the company had to make some adjustments to ensure the BCP. So I myself, as a leader in the department, would have to actually look into the BCP in place. We do have the first wave BCP, but again, I think what the learning is that it's a bit different this time around. We're more towards local community cases this time around, and definitely during that time, especially in the earlier times, there was a bit, I would say, trial and error, and also hoping that everything works well with what we plan. I think one thing that I observe is that especially earlier during the second wave was maybe it's because the anxiety level is really high. I find that even with the leaders, they tend to be a lot of knee-jerk reaction, like just hearing something and then decide just deciding upon something without really thinking it through. So that influenced how the SOP was like. Just the question to end is with regards to devising the BCPs in place. How do we balance between ensuring operation goes on, but also considering the welfare of our team, our people? They have their concerns. We do want the operation to go on, but how do we also consider their opinions on things, and how do we balance things out? Thank you.
Thank you, Matthias, for that question. I see we have actually 3 colleagues who commented who are part of the oil and gas industry. I think best for Puan Haja Zainab to just come in a bit, and then Dr. Helena and Ashmir can come in. I want to also acknowledge there are a lot of more questions that have just been posted on the chat. I can see someone has told me not to stop the session yet. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to extend the session for a bit in the case that we still don't have questions, not have questions answered yet. But I am really glad that this session is productive and useful for everyone. And if there's something that you'd like to say on the mic, please raise your hand so I can take note. Puan Haja Zainab, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Fadli. Indeed, there's a lot of questions from everyone. I think 3 of them from the oil and gas industry, from BSP specifically. And if I were to look at, there was the first one was Hayati, right? And then we have Khadija, and then we have a gentleman, I forgot his name just now. So I think it's best for me to just set this in a little bit. Basically, when we talk about these really trying times, there are 3 things that comes to my mind. And as one of the senior management in the company, and also one of the COVID task force member, a delegate, chairperson as well for that, in the absence of a CEO, there were a lot of things that come to mind when the first news broke in the country on the 8th of August about the second wave. We kick off our task force immediately. And what was the first question? The first discussion is all about how do we keep the safety and the well-being of all people? How do we motivate people? Because at that point in time, we are already on the point of, okay, looks like we have to kick all our BCPs, depending on what DOSCON level we are at that point in time. So there was a lot of things that we did, but I will try to just make it quick because of time as well, you know. So initially, the first thing that comes to mind, how do we keep our people safe and motivated? So when the gentleman was talking about the balance in keeping operation going and at the same time taking care of the welfare of people, that is always top of our mind as part of the management team and the COVID task force in DSP. So in a nutshell, we know the country depends on us to ensure that we continue to produce oil and gas. It cannot be interrupted. So what do? Very quickly, we operate 24/7, 365, if you can call it that way, you know. So in a way, we are volunteers in our own, you know, time outside of office hours, so as to speak. Anything that happened, we just convene. So what we did was to see how can we reduce the exposure to our people while upholding our commitment to the country, you know, to ensure oil and gas continue to flow, for example. So we went into our business continuity plan, the BCPs, where we look at the skeletal crew, as we call it. So where we used to have people working offshore 14 days and then 14 days rest, we have to revert to a longer term measure where we have to create bubbles in order to protect the people who are in that bubble who are safe, and also the assets that's being sweated, yeah, so as to speak. So in a nutshell, there was a lot of changes there. The balance is we do recognize as management, there are going to be hardship because these people will have to be away from the family longer. And we do connect with these people regularly to just ensure the mental health is there. You know, we want them to know that we care. We are always there for them. That is the most important thing for us. You know, whenever they need it, that all the leaders are upskill, all the leaders are being given special pack, how to actually manage situation where they come across mental health or resilience, or even at that matter, demotivation. We do all those. But the three things that I talked about in the beginning just now was about making sure our leaders and making sure our supervisors, wherever they are, understood what does it mean to be resilient. Because once you understand the term, then you can mitigate, right? So when we talk about resilient, we just focus on the capacity of our staff or individuals to recover very quickly from the difficulties or setbacks that we have at that point in time. So, you know, depending where they are, there'll be different setbacks, yeah? Then we also upskill our leaders to ensure that when we talk about stress, when you talk about being resilient, it's related to how you manage the setback. So the stress tolerance level is very important. So we talk about, we ensure they are really clear about the ability of our people to be relaxed and composed when they're faced with all these challenges. Okay, there are approaches, which I guess a lot of people here knows about it. And the last one here is we upskill our leaders about flexibility. What do I mean by flexibility? So this is about the ability to actually shift a course of action or thought process according to the changing demands or the complexity of the situation. So these three things are the upskilling that we put in the first part for all our leaders and supervisors to ensure that they take care of all individuals. How do they motivate the people? That showing compassion. But you know what I did additionally, something that I would like to share here. So I think Khadija and also Hayati perhaps shared that, I don't remember, that daily connect with our people, making sure that, hey guys, you know, we're here, reach out when you need support. If you think you can't cope with your work, let us know. If you think that the line between your professional and personal life is really blurring because of homeschooling, shout out so we can support you, so to speak. So I come across this thing that all of you participants and my fellow speakers can also look for it in LinkedIn. So I found something that was posted by a professional. It says Google well-being manifesto. I love it. It's yellow and it's got a lot of fun things on it. So I actually immediately take it and send it to everyone that I know in the organization, my staff especially. So this Google well-being manifesto talk things about, hey leaders, this is different times. It's okay for your people to have a baby on their lap, you know, that kind of interpretation. when they're having the Zoom meeting. It's okay to have kids shouting in the background when you are having a meeting. You have to be flexible. This is not a similar time. It's different from the first wave even, because most people are working from home. And there are many things. And then it's okay if somehow one of my individual direct reportees says, Zainab, I'm overwhelmed. I don't think I want to switch on today. And you know what I will say to her or him? It's okay. You know what is expected of you for this week. You deliver it within the time that you can, even if whatever time is suitable for you. If you have to take time out to manage homeschooling for 1 or 2 hours, I'm okay with it because I trust you, you will deliver what is upon you. So those are the kind of things that actually we put on the table. That trust at a distance is very important. If you don't have trust, then, that's going to be a difficult thing. When you trust people do amazing things. And trust me, people will really, really measure up to your expectation. So I will stop there because there are other people who wants to talk. I can go on, but I'll stop there for now. Thank you.
Fadli, you're muted, Fadli. You're talking to yourself.
Thanks, Ashmir. I'm not sure why I got muted. I just want to say that's a really, really good anda, Zainab. I just want to pay tribute to my own team manager that I'm working with. She gives me the same trust, that same empowerment to really do what I need to do, especially in these difficult times mentally as well. I'm going to pause there and pivot to Dr. Helena. I also see one more hand there from our participants, so that's great. Maybe we have one more round. So please do allow me to extend the session for a bit. I'll give the floor to Ashmir and to Dr. Helena and then Ashmir. Dr. Helena, the floor is yours.
On Haja Zainab, does BSP need an ophthalmologist? Okay. No, I was just going back to Khadija's comments and her very eloquent points. What everyone is feeling, and I'm coming at it from a medical perspective, is completely normal. Every anxiety, particularly in this time, it's a normal physiological response, okay? So, for example, we have this, you can go back to your biology lessons, when your body perceives that there's a threat going on, whether it be real, whether something is chasing you, whether it's the fact, am I going to get COVID? I'm a close contact, you're waiting, that 40, I know the wait can be long, that 48 hours. And, Ashmir is here, he knows, we're doing regular surveillance even on ourselves. So for me, I'm doing, just to put it in perspective, I am swabbing myself every day with an ART kit, and then every week, I'm having a nasal swab. And you can imagine the anxiety that comes just waiting for that result. But what I guess I'm trying to say is that don't beat yourself up if you're feeling anxious, because that anxiety you're going through is completely normal. Your body feels that it's under threat, and it's a collective thing our whole country is going through. We feel like we're under threat. And that's why, just to emphasize, limit that information that you're taking in, whether it be via social media, whether it be via the press conferences. Even for me, just reading the comments, sometimes I'll log on and then people write comments, and some of them just have no basis except in that person's own fear, So it's very important. You have to guard, just as you're protecting your own bubble from ikut SOP or teranah di rumah and things like that. This is also a real, this bubble you have to jaga as well. Your mental bubble. You really have to be conscious about what you're letting in. And I would urge everyone not to get so, pulled in by all the negativity that's happening at the moment. It's going to come up, so just do make sure you look after yourselves.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Helena. I think it's something to follow up on if PSP does indeed need an ophthalmology. But in any case, I love the bouncing of these conversations, especially coming from your own perspective from Zainab. And Tuan Dini, I know I don't see a hand up yet from you, but if you want to comment, we can open that up right after the two comments from our participants. I'm gonna give to Ashmir and then let Rahimin and Naz to take the floor a bit later. Ashmir, floor is yours.
Okay, thanks again, Fatih. So I would like to touch on, just add on to Pon Zainab because she covered it really beautifully, and so does Dr. Hadina. So I need just to add on sedikit to Hayati's question regarding work from home, how do we take care of people? So, coming from a current background whereby we don't have work from office, we have to be on the ground, and I think Dr. Halina can relate to this totally, that we have to be on the ground, or not almost, it's daily since the second wave hit us. So for us, there are certain like certain stigmas and certain worries that is there daily, especially to our volunteers who are from middle age, from teenagers who have just graduated, waiting to graduate, and we have a quite big pool of people. And for daily worries about, am I gonna get COVID? Am I gonna bring back COVID to my family? Will I be the puncha to my family? You know, this constant worriness that is amongst us, the petugas-petugas nila. So also with the recent ART test, the antigen rapid testing, whereby we're waiting for the result once it's going up, and we're just afraid that there could be double line, which indicates we're positive and stuff. So for us daily, for the leaders of the centers and the leaders who people actually look up to, and the people who are actually giving directions what to do for the day, for us, we need constant motivation. We need to motivate one another, especially each and every single volunteers. So for me, what I usually do is be transparent to them. We have to tell them, okay, guys, this is the scenario. Okay, we need you. You have to play this role. You have to do this. As long as everybody knows that they have a role to play. Yang penting they feel that they are part of it and not just, okay, hari ini kamu dapat, okay lah, and tomorrow bye-bye, that's it. But they need to be, they need to feel part of whatever we are doing. So we need to make sure everybody feels that they are needed, not just for a temporary period of time. They're there, okay, so you know that, bye-bye. So for me, the constant transparency and the constant reminder of the SOPs, that we need to tegur one another. We need to remind one another. Okay, guys, your face mask has been for 4 hours. Let's change it. You just went outside for deployment. You came back. Okay, make sure you change your PPE. We need to remind, because we are all humans and we get tired, and sometimes we just forget about all these SOPs and all these protective equipments and how's the process of coming inside ataupun going outside. So constant reminders and then transparency and making everyone feel part of it. So I believe with that, everyone who has been coming on the ground, being worried about their family, as long as we remind them, okay guys, we're in this together. As long as we practice our social and physical distancing, we follow the SOP given by the Ministry of Health. And once we go back home, first thing we do is clean ourselves, do not directly meet our families. And Alhamdulillah, so far so good. And let's pray that it will still be so far so good. So for me, I cannot really comment, and Puan Zainab has already commented beautifully for work from home. But for me, work from office or work from ground, yeah, that's the skill that we should have to support one another, to remind one another. Just because we've seen somebody who's not wearing his or her face mask, it could be orang tu baru kan minum air. So we need to have this positive mindset and tegur menegur nicely, not to discriminate anyone. You're the punca, bapa jokan. No, we shouldn't do that. We need to understand that some people, it could be just kan minum air ka, baru kan makan ka. But yeah, reminders are important so that everybody stays safe. As what the Yang Berhormat Minister of Health said, everyone's unsafe until everyone's safe. Yeah, I hope it's something matulah. I just imagine saya lurus tutup. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much from me. Constant reminders. So let's remind one another and let's not discriminate anyone. If kami melihat pun macam mana people punching the wall and stuff, as what was said earlier today, it could be how he or she has been coping up with the stress. So there could be different ways. Some people would just like a long drive just to throw their stress. Some people would just like to sleep, play game. So different people have different mechanism of coping, and we have to just respect people's decision. But if people are going in the wrong direction, that's when we have to tegur. If we don't tegur, that's on us for not being part of it. So as what Kondini has said as well, by just staying at home, or by just reminding one another, that's already a process of volunteerism. So we voluntarily are helping people and tegur menegur. So that's it from me, Fadli, referring to the question earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashmir, about keeping accountability for people. I just want to give a bit of airtime before I open another round, and to Twandini as well. Hazira, I would like you to come in just to share your views. I know there are things that may have already been said, but you yourself are a young professional. You've been doing the whole work of young mental health advocacy for young people through NGO work, and maybe if you would like to also share mental health resources before I may pass on and open the floor as well. Azira, the floor is yours.
Okay, sure thing. So I will come into this as a perspective of a student from online learning. So I definitely understand that it can be very overwhelming during this time. And I think one important coping strategy that I've had is to set boundaries with yourself. On top of what everyone has basically said, this is kind of like a quick summary, is to be self-aware of like what you're going through, and just while self-care is like important, make sure you're making it intentional and not just something to kind of ignore or put the feelings that you're feeling down. So some mental health resources that are available in Brunei is, of course, like if you're feeling down, Talian Harapan is always available. And then there are a lot of initiatives by other organizations who are doing a series of workshops online, just like the one that Impact has also done. So we have like More to Bloom. Ayan has also done incredible initiatives. So if you guys need that support or community that you can't find within your own circle right now, those communities are more than welcome to welcome you and, come together to talk about your mental health and your mental health needs if, the professional services are currently unavailable. Yeah.
Thank you, Hazira, for that quick comment. I'll open the floor to Rahimin. For your mic and camera to be switched on for your remarks and comment, if you can introduce yourself as well. And then after this, we'll have Naz S. Rahimin, floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Fadli. Good evening. I hope my mic is clear. I just want to perhaps share something and maybe address one of the comments or question that was proposed regarding the issue of resilience, practicing resilience, where you are not prepared, where you don't have the resources or the mentorship or the means of preparing yourself to adopt a more resilient posture when you face such downfalls or moments of downfall. For the benefit of everybody, I'm Rahimin Amin, workplace safety and health practitioner from Darussalam Enterprise and also a retired military serviceman. So back to answering or in response to that question, so I see two parts to it. So one is how can you, implement or impose such a posture in adopting such resilience upon yourself, and the other part is as a leader to a team, how can you, inspire or motivate your team members to adopt a more resilient posture. So I'll address the first part quickly. In the event that there are no immediate available resources or support structure to prepare oneself, what I usually advise my mentees sometimes is in these dire situations where you feel lonely and there's no available mentor or a leader to look up to in how to conduct yourself to be more resilient. This is when you will have to dig deep and you'll have to rely on yourself and practice what I would like to call self-leadership. You have to enable this self-induced resilience. You have to take ownership of that moment of downfall and reorient yourself with a growth mindset. This mindset is where failure is embraced and it is taken as a point of learning, because bouncing back is only as good as how you are bouncing back. What I mean is here we don't just want to bounce up, but we want to bounce up and forward as well. And I think that is true resilience. So self-leadership is really important. And the other part, for your own team as a leader, give that support structure to them. You manifest that psychological safety, perhaps through radical inclusion and candor. You create that environment that embraces continuous learning. And most important of all, you as the leader has to model that resilience. So to keep it short, I hand the floor back to Fadli. Thank you for this opportunity. Fadli.
Thank you, Rahimin Amin. He is a fellow 1APN mentor as well, which I'm proud, and also a fellow colleague from the Darussalam Enterprise. So it's nice to have you here, and thank you for being here and sharing your self-leadership. Let's go to and we'll have a last round of remarks from our speakers. Hazira, also, if you'd like to add on, just to give you more airtime. I understand you haven't been able to speak as much, but thank you once again for sharing those mental health resources. Naz S, I'd like you to come in for your comment and remark. Microphone and mic, please.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, very well. Could you introduce yourself?
I'm not sure about the camera, so I'll keep it off because of internet. It's happened before that it locked me out. So I'll keep it off for now. So I have a question for, I guess, people who are working on the ground or who
Naz,
are
could you introduce yourself first?
Sorry. Yeah. My name is Naz. I am a counselor in training, and I also work with, and I also am a mental health advocate. So my question is going to be around, I guess, the mental health aspect. So I was saying earlier that, what was I saying? Yeah, I was saying earlier about a point that was raised by Tuan Dini, and I think Ashmir and everybody else also have said it quite beautifully about how I'm going to talk about volunteers and frontliners. So since they're stepping up to put their lives at risk, I am just wondering, I'm not sure about if they've done this with the government frontliners, but I was wondering if there should be any safeguarding for volunteers and frontliners, the mental and physical aspect. For example, aside from risk assessment, should there be more provided for them? Like, for example, going into the second wave, obviously we're going to expect a lot of kind of trauma or crisis. So for example, like critical incident stress management, like CSM, as they are dealing with trauma, should this be provided, for example, in the beginning of their inclusion of being a volunteer or a frontliner? And for example, should debriefing, like a psychological debriefing, be provided to all of those involved at the end of the pandemic, hopefully? And my other question to this is, like, who can we depend to give out these services to frontliners and volunteers, as as we were talking about how important it is to really assess the mental health of people who are involved. Like, the mental health aspects that is involved with this pandemic is related to compassion fatigue, PTSD, anxiety, as Wani Gapar has posted up in the chat. So that's all from me. If there is anything unclear, you can ask me to repeat.
Thank you, Naz, for that comment. I think this is actually much relatable to Tuan Dini's perspective. I'll let him share his answers along with some of the remarks that he hasn't been able to share. Tuan Dini, floor is yours.
Terima kasih, Fadli. Nas, ya. Nas, of course, that's why from the early yesterday when I said you have to be prepared before you're involved with these any volunteers. Of course, if there is any crisis, the most important thing that we have to do is a traumatized debrief. Traumatized debrief is very important once you're finished with the volunteer or something like that, we have to do a traumatized debrief. Traumatized debrief, it is important just because of to avoid people will get PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Because when we leave them alone, after doing the thing, seeing something like this, a lot of critical, at the end balik ke rumah, nothing happen. This is the thing that kadang-kadang in a human time, the people will effect of post-traumatic stress disorder. So it is important, yes. Don't worry, I'm one of the volunteers. I can be a support. I can do all these things. You can contact myself at any time to do all these things. I can teach, or even untuk menyampaikan berita pun, ya, insyaAllah, how to pass the message to the family yang family-nya pass away. This is also important because once you pass the message ini, bukan dari suka hati kadang-kadang menyampaikan berita, oh minta maaf, kami menyampaikan berita bini kita meninggal. No, there is a procedure yang indah memberi kesan yang mendalam kepada penerima dan pemberitahuan itu juga. Okay, of course, secara menyeluruh daripada saya Giovanni di sini ingin saya sampaikan, of course, pada masa ini semua orang dalam keadaan stres, semua orang dalam keadaan orang tu kecelaruan. Of course, we have to be professional. No matter who you are, we have to be positive during this time. This is the time anugerah Tuhan kita ni harus to be positive to others. Jangan entah kita ni selalu judge before seeing the right. Ini kadang-kadang kalah pulang Datuk. Datang sudah berita. This is the thing that yang kadang-kadang membuatkan orang lebih stres apa itu semua. Please guys, this is the time. Saranan saya kepada masyarakat Brunei, itah masanya kita ni bersatu menunjukkan profesionalisme kita ni untuk membina satu kekuatan ukhuwah. Kita ni alhamdulillah kepada yang macamnya apa tadi persoalan yang macam mana untuk menangani stres. Please, when you have a problem, when you have this situation, tekanan depression, anxiety, depression, please talk to someone that you feel trust to listen to you. Okay, don't keep it to yourself, because when you keep it to yourself, satu luapan akan berlaku kepada diri kita, luapan kemarahan yang akan satu tingkah laku yang kita tanpa sedari yang akan berlaku. This is bad. Okay, so kalau perasaan bis kita ada sesuatu yang akan kita jumpa kaunselor ataupun pakar-pakar psikologi yang boleh membantu untuk mendengar. Dan menambah juga tadi daripada Puan Zainab, I'm really interested with your words. If you trust with your people, insyaAllah people will trust you. But ingin saya menambah di sini, the most important thing, trust and respect, and orang tu betul ansur. When you have this three things, believe me, your organization betul terang antara within your staff apa itu ini, tidak salah kalau kita ni bercakap or say something yang for good when it is fact, kan, yang berfakta. So this is important. Ingat lagi pertama menyampaikan berita yang betul, dan bagaimana menyampaikan berita yang betul, dan please share with your colleague or counselor if you have something to say. Please never ever keep it to yourself. Share it with your counselor. That's why mungkin di Brunei ni perkataan counselor ni masih baru. That's why ataupun CISM ini masih baru. Tapi ini ingin saya tekankan di sini, di luar negara, satu contoh saja, apabila kemalangan kapal terbang, bila tidak dipeduli orang-orang yang volunteer ini, almost 70% ada yang mati tinggi darah, membunuh diri. Dan setelah kejadian kedua, bila dipeduli orang-orang yang frontliner membantu segala bomba polis, alhamdulillah only 1%, seorang saja yang meninggal ataupun meninggal kerana jantung. Dibandingkan dengan orang yang tidak dipeduli, yang volunteer tidak dipeduli setelah mereka ni involved with volunteer. See, this is kesan yang besar sebenarnya. So kita ni harus ambil PK tentang hal ini. Wajib sebenarnya untuk kita ni melihat para doktor kita ni kesian, kengedihan. So we have to do this session of traumatized debrief untuk menjadikan diorang itu feel very positive and tahu nilai apa yang diorang buat itu jadi something yang special untuk diorang. So itu saja daripada saya. Kadir, masih back to you.
Thank you, Tuan Dini. I just want to open a last call for remarks, questions, insights to YPN members or participants before we conclude the session. Otherwise, I would like to go one last round from our speakers for last closing remarks for about 2 to 3 minutes to do that as I don't want to end the session too late in honoring everyone's time and schedule. Last calling for questions, remarks. I don't see any hands up. I don't see any further questions. Let me just check my phone if anything else. Okay, I think we're good. I understand maybe some of the questions may not have been answered may not have been answered as succinctly, or maybe some questions may have been misinterpreted. If our speakers would like to share their contact details or how best they can continue this conversation with you, please feel free to share that on the chat box. And I just want to also share that a lot of the things that we've discussed today is also being recorded, well, anonymously for documentation, and for me personally to curate my sessions in order to ensure continuity and impact for the conversation that we need to do for our fellow professionals ahead. More on that when I share before the conclusion of the session. Puan Zainab, I can see your hands up. Did you want to answer a question from one of the participants?
No, I just want to reiterate one last point, if I may.
Please.
Amidst everything else that we have discussed today, I mean, like really insightful comments from all the speakers and moderator alike, I just wanted to call on the very basic instinct of the human being, just don't forget to count the blessing. The gratitude feeling can make up for everything else, because if someone is counting the blessing on a daily basis, what are you grateful for today? And that's what I will ask my staff, what are you grateful for today? 3 things that you're grateful. It can actually help to negate any negativity that they have and turn into positivity. Because, I'm grateful I'm still alive today. I'm grateful I'm healthy. I'm grateful, and so forth and so forth. That's all I just want to read that and leave the comments, so to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Puan Zainab. Always a good reminder to leave with that sebenarnya from the session, to always feel grateful. Not easy, easier said than done. Puan Zainab, definitely. So given that we don't have any other last questions, and I see some nice heart reactions there, thank you for participating so far. There's even a comment there from Miss Hayati Kamis about the stay at home there. Thank you for sharing your insights. Please feel free to share your last few comments and remarks while our speakers go through their last their closing for this session. Hazira, I'd like to give the floor to you first. I just want to give you that platform once again, not just as someone who's running an NGO, but a student yourself. I'm sure there is some resilience in your time of uncertainty as well. And the work you do, I want to also thank you for that contribution with Cope for Hope, and hopefully more moving forward. I just want to give you this floor for your last closing remarks for one last time, and hopefully looking forward you to have on another session. Hazira, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you so much, Fadli, for your kind words. So right now, while we're going through the second wave, we're also noticing that we're going through a mental health pandemic in Brunei, where the demand for mental health services is increasing more than ever. So I want to take this opportunity to really thank YPN, because I remember being a student 4 years ago, and these type of talks never existed. I mean, talking about mental health was already so taboo. So this is honestly such a great initiative. And I just want to remind the participants, like you being here in this talk, you're already destigmatizing the stigma in you and the community around you by being here. So, you guys really should applaud yourself on that. We're fighting the pandemic together as a community, and I really want to thank you all for inviting me and letting me speak my thoughts.
Thank you so much, Hazira. I will always continue the work that's being done within the mental health advocacy scene, and would love to work not just with Hazira, with Cope for Hope, but also our fellow speakers on how we can really explore more support, not just for young professionals, but also students like Hazira who are in the scene and doing that likewise. Hazira, thank you for your participation contributions, and I'm sorry if we haven't been able to have enough airtime for you to speak, but that gives me more reason for us to have another session with you, hopefully inshallah one day. That is Cope for Hope from Hazira Ahmad. I'd like to give the floor next to perhaps Dr. Helena, if you're ready.
What is it, like closing remarks, is it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Have a sense of humor. Trust me, my sense of humor has had to take me through a lot. I want to bring back to something I think Naz was saying just now, because now a lot more research is coming out about trauma, how the body stores trauma, how it releases trauma. And as someone who's doing swabbing, as a pediatric ophthalmologist, I really have concerns for the young children, the young population who are going through this second wave. You know, the children who are doing online schooling, they're not having that normal interaction with their age group, you know, and then also for myself, having to swab a lot more children. You know, Delta is not something to be messed with. It is so transmissible. I'm seeing so much more, we are seeing so much more children, so many more innocents going into the ISO centers. So I think for me, my closing remarks would be for those of you who are parents, or you know, you have nieces, nephews, or you have little ones around you, be mindful of them, because children don't necessarily say, they cannot communicate how they're feeling. So give them a lot of reassurance at this time, a lot of physical contact, if you can, if you're in the same house, you know, hugs and affection. I feel because the next, you know, and with the fact that mental health awareness is now better, it's not perfect, but by our generation, or you guys are much more aware about mental health and its importance, you know. So for the generation coming up now, the little kids now, be aware this is going to impact them. So they need a lot of your love and affection and support at this time. So that's my closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Helena. I won't take too much time. I will have let's see, Tuan Dini, Ashmir, and then Tuan Zainab. Tuan Dini, please, close yours.
Okay, terima kasih Tuan Azmir, Tuan Fadli. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much to YPN for the organize this Zoom, and hope your young generation keep it up, teruskan usaha, because you are the generation yang akan membina negara kita ni nanti, insyaAllah. For the doctor, and then for Puan Zainab, especially for the doctor, whatever that you did, congratulations, tahniah, and then please do it. Jika kita ni melakukan sesuatu yang ikhlas ini, insyaAllah sesuatu yang kebaikan yang akan datang kepada kita ni. Ingat dia, memang kepayahan itu sesuatu yang perlu kita ditempuhi, namun kenikmatan, jika hati kita ni ikhlas untuk melakukan sesuatu, percaya, nescaya sesuatu kebaikan yang akan datang kepada kita ni. Pada Puan Zainab, wow, excellent, dapat peluang berjumpa dengan seorang yang berilmu, yang berpengalaman. Thank you for the sharing. And then Ashmir, my colleague, my Adi ni sebenarnya, Ashmir. Azmir, keep it up. Jangan putus asa. Be the good leader. I know who you are. And then, hilang. Am I still in? Hello.
Sorry, Tuan. Yeah, you're still in. Suddenly, the music just came out of nowhere. Maybe just to add more, more ambient emotions, kali ya.
Okay, may I continue? Okay, to Azmir, I know, keep it up. You know, be the example. Semoga beroleh kebaikan lah daripada apa yang bisa kita buat. Nazira, jaga diri di Amerika, and then back to Brunei, sumbang ilmu yang terbaik untuk menjana kebaikan dan memajukan negara kita ini. For those yang di luar sana yang involved with this, yang join this Zoom, thank you so much for the test. Jika ada persoalan, permasalahan, please sekali lagi don't keep it to yourself. Talk to yourself, talk to your counselor, someone you can trust. I'm available at any time. You can contact my name, my IG pun ada tadi, and then my number pun, you can get my number through our organization. So anytime that you, what do you call this, ada permasalahan, please, don't keep it down. Lakukan sesuatu yang ikhlas, insyaAllah. Sesuatu kebaikan yang akan habis kita perolehi. Ingat, lakukan sesuatu dengan ikhlas. Bukan kerana nama. Itu saja.
Thank you very much, Tuan Dini. Very good, well ended, and imparting, menyempati je, just to impart kind words and advice for not just for the speakers, but also for media. Thank you, Tandini.
Inshallah.
We will have Sir Ashmir, and then lastly, Panaja Zainab. Ashmir, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Fadli. Thank you, everyone. Tandini, Dr. Lina, Zainab, Azira. Shout out to Fadli as well for being a great moderator throughout the ano, and shout out to everyone for being participative. And then it was such a lovely and platform with discussing with everyone, sharing ideas, sharing views. Apa. So, Alhamdulillah, it's nice to see that the future of Brunei is in great hands with kita semua. And whatever we do, just like to add into Tuan Dini Piano, whatever we do, we do it lillahi ta'ala, and hal jazaa'ul ihsani lal ihsan. There is no other reward for goodness other than goodness. So let's just continue and let's help each other in breaking the cycle and breaking the circle supaya we're back to how we were as a COVID-free nation, inshallah, with everyone punya cooperation, constant doa, and yang penting usaha from our side, everyone, and all the best to everyone, especially Dr. Helena, and being the frontliners as well as to the other frontliners. So, and we hope that we have other sessions, Shamani, whereby we talk about mental health, we talk about supporting one another, and how did someone did great. We learn from apa yang baik, and then we perbaikan lagi apa yang perlu diperbaikan, and we act on what's the best to be done. So, inshallah, with that, yeah, great night, and see you guys soon again. Okay, Fadli, back to you.
Thank you so much, Ashmir. Last but not least, Panaja Zainab.
Right, I'm gonna leave you guys, participants, and colleagues alike with just 8 items here. you know me, I will give that. So basically, please continue to nurture the connections that you have, especially during this working from home time, and be very, very intentional about the contact that you have, keeping time aside to get connected. And exercise, you don't have to do heavy lifting. While you're doing your video call, Zoom or what, you can stand up, you can sit down, don't just sit there stuck to the chair. So that's important, yeah. Sleep, we have to have enough sleep. Don't forget about that, everyone. I have a problem with that as well. Mindfulness, we talk a lot about that, yeah. So it doesn't matter whether you're celebrating success or you're enduring hardship, the mindfulness actually helps us to foster further learning and also giving us new perspective and a degree of self-awareness that can enhance your resiliencies. That's what we're talking about here. Reappraisal, and this is about embracing the new perspectives that we've been talking about. We got a lot of new perspective today. Embrace it. You gain the new understanding, you apply them during times of change, and do not hold on to old behaviors because they are obsolete, yeah, some of them, and still just because they're familiar. We are familiar, you keep on doing, but especially when it's obvious to let go, let it go. Emotion. So in emotion, you need to be deliberate in enhancing and prolonging your positive moods, yeah? Don't swing to the negative too much. Be very, very mindful about this, yeah? Because these experiences and this emotion that you feel, if you can prolong that feeling, that positivity, I guess during this time I shouldn't say positive, people don't like that word, but fun aside, you should keep positive all the time, right? And then last but not least, I mentioned about being grateful, gratitude. This is important. Must have time every day to take time to acknowledge. For us yang spiritual, you have a lot of time to do it 5 kali sehari, ya, so to speak. And don't forget, everyone, all the speakers have speak eloquently. They talk about berdoa banyak-banyak, kata ni negara zikir, ya. So we need to also remember when you are being grateful, we talk about what is it the most important thing. Manusia ni merancang, Allah SWT yang melaksanakan. Jangan tak lupa, doa itu penting bagi kita ni. Ia tah jambatan kita ni, ya, untuk minta tolong kepada Allah SWT. So last but not least, YPN, thank you very much for having me here. All the fellow speakers, I learned a lot from you guys. It's such a blast. Hope to see you again in the future. And all the participants, thank you for being here today. Assalamualaikum.
Salam. Thank you so much, Panaja Zainab. I'm like smiling right now because I'm so happy on how this session has turned out, and taking this opportunity since our speakers just had their remarks. Thank you so much, Ashmir. Thank you so much, Nadini. Thank you so much, Hazira. Thank you so much, Dr. Helena. Thank you so much, Panaja Zainab, for being here and your time this evening on sharing and listening to our participants. I think the largest turnout that I've seen earlier throughout the session was about over 100 people. So I did not expect this huge of a turnout, but I really hope this session has been productive, meaningful. And last but not least, impactful for everyone here. And maybe just a spirit of camaraderie. I think while in the pandemic ini ruginya kami in the berjumpa, but inshallah hopefully in the future, if you could just give me a reaction, just to give yourself a round of applause for being part of this session. I think there's a reaction button here. There you go. I can see clapping of hands there. Thank you so much for being with us, all of you, every single one of you. Even though ada pun yang ina sampat untuk bertanya soalan, I understand that. I really do hope that listening into the other young professionals who came in, the YPN mentors as well, and sharing their insights may have helped you in any difficulty that you are currently in, especially in these difficult times. Of course, like any impact dialogue, like any forum, and like any initiative for YPN, it doesn't stop here. We do appreciate that you fill in the feedback, and not to worry, and to keep in mind that a lot of the questions and the discussions and key takeaways are being recorded. For me personally, to hopefully curate a better session for you in the coming next few months. It's also quite interesting to see this wave of mental health, especially next month as we celebrating Mental Health Day, and to see the plight of teachers, especially with the burnout they have, and the different professionals that are currently going through their own difficulties, like 3 fellow engineers that had shared, and the counselors and the other individuals as well that had came in. Yeah. So this is the fifth edition of the Impact Dialogue, Resilience in Uncertain Times. It's great that to see this interaction and the different key takeaways from looking at HR perspectives within corporate companies, and how can they manage that, to different organizational issues and opportunities that can come in for us to support each other, and also self-care awareness, especially from health frontliners themselves and the experience they have, even more so from a student overseas in her own way, providing and contributing to the advocacy scene, both remotely and through the work that we do in NGOs as well. Thank you so much for the kind messages that are coming in through the chat. Yeah, and and thank you so much also for being here, as I'm extending the session for an additional 35 minutes actually, and still being here as well. Last but not least, I think I just would like to share that we do have our ypnbrunei.com website if you'd like to check out some of our other programs. Personally, YPN and outside YPN, I'll continue to develop these sessions, and I'm so glad that you all have been validating that these sessions are useful, and hopefully we can do more together for the Impact Dialogue. I also have a note as well. Please do fill in the feedback form with the link that had been shared, and to our fellow speakers, just in case they've missed the messages, if you've not already shared your contact details for them to just contact you and be in touch, please do that. So and also so yeah, it's like a whole speech that I need to just share. I'd like to thank you personally to our YPN members who've been who've made this. If it's not without them, it wouldn't have been possible. Adli Raza for designing these graphics from the very beginning. Fatin and Aspa for their advice and wisdom on polishing the concept for today's program. Afek on the technicalities behind on hosting for this live streaming and the Zoom platform. Angie for the energizer. Cikgu Faiza, Iza, Martin, Nadia for being heroes in the background in delivering this this program, as well as our friends from YPN mentors, and for everyone else for being part of this. Please don't leave just yet, as we would like to conclude today's event with Surah Al-As. Thank you for reminding me that, team. But yeah, I would just like to thank you deep down from myself, Fadli, for this session. I would like to now invite Haji Martin to come in for the recital of Surah Al-As to conclude today's event. Martin, close yours.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك ونتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.
آمين آمين يا رب العالمين.